Select Board meeting for Harwich, Monday, July 14th, 2025. I'll accept a motion to go in executive session, but we will be coming back no earlier than 6 p.m.
Okay, I move we go to an executive session for A, pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 38, Section 21A3, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining for all town unions and non-union personnel and/or contract negotiations with non-union personnel. And the chair has determined that open session would have a detrimental effect on the town's bargaining position. B, pursuant to General Laws, Chapter 38, Section 21A2, to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel and to conduct contract negotiations with non-union personnel. Finance Director, Acting Town Administrator.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to go into executive session and to not return to open session until at least 6 p.m. So, all in favor, Pete?
Aye.
Bet?
Aye.
Yes, I know, Mark. Jenner again, from earlier this evening. We were in executive session. We're still involved with negotiations for a finance director, and there were two issues relating to personnel that we have not come to a conclusion yet. And that was pretty much the executive session. So I ask you to join me with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Just a reminder about the 9 people who died down Fall River.
And before we get into any part of the meeting, I've been reminded, the Fall River incident where 9 people passed away, I'd like to take a moment of silence in deference to those individuals and their families. Thank you. Okay, so staff comments and announcements.
Hi, good evening. Hi, good evening. I'm Julie Wittes, for those who I may not have met yet. I'm the Director of the Council on Aging. So I'm here tonight to basically remind residents that we are still here during the summer. We have a lot of fun classes. We are hoping to see more faces down at the community center. Every other month, our newsletter is published with details of the programs that we have and the services that we offer. So if anyone out there does not receive our newsletter and would like to receive it, we'd like to encourage you to call our office, let us know, give us your address, and we can get that right out to you. Over the summer, we have many of our standard programs still in operation. We have fitness classes, craft workshops, movie days, breakfast and lunch programs. We have a couple of different support groups for caregivers. And we have an author talk coming up in August as well. I just wanted to highlight 2 programs that I think people may be interested in. And this is something that doesn't come up very often. We do have some tech classes for Android phone users. We do have Apple classes as well, but those filled up very quickly. We're looking at adding some extra sessions. But if there are any Android users out there who would like to come learn more about their phone or their tablet, we encourage you to call our office. And we also, once again, are partnering with Pleasant Bay Community Boating to offer some excursions on Pleasant Bay for our seniors this year. So they have a large pontoon boat that they take out. They call it the floating classroom, and we'll be taking approximately 50 people out for that in August. So if you'd like to join that and have a lovely day on the water, we would like to see you for that. And then I also wanted to provide an update to you, Select Board members. I have been here before you a few times the past year to tell you updates on our needs assessment that we've been undertaking in collaboration with UMass, their Institute of Gerontology. So that has been an approximately 1-year process during which we collected surveys from residents, we held focus groups, or I should say UMass held focus groups, and did interviews with some of the residents and stakeholders in the community. So data collection has finished. They have collated it, analyzed it, and are preparing a final report for us. We do intend to present those findings to the public at a community forum in the fall. Before that date, however, we would like to present the findings to you. So I'm just here today to give you that brief update to let you know that those are coming. We would like to share them with you, and I'm hoping that maybe we could work with you and the administration staff to find a time on a future agenda, perhaps late this summer or very early fall, where we could have about 20 to 30 minutes of your time to share that with you. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Chiefs, how are you?
David Blank, Fire Chief, and with me is,
Kevin Considine, Police Chief.
we just wanted to touch base, Mr. Chairman, we had talked about this, about the July 4th weekend. You know, it's always a challenge for both departments. It seems to be more so lately with Harwichport. This year, we think overall, I think Kevin would agree with me that it was actually pretty successful. While there were a lot of people down there and there were certainly some issues, what we saw, and my fire inspector was down there both nights, Friday and Saturday night. Police had extra personnel on both Friday and Saturday nights. And what we saw was the restaurants doing what they're supposed to do, keeping track of the number of patrons in them, managing their crowd. And while the crowds were significant on the sidewalk, that's because they were managing their crowds. And there were a couple of complaints. In most cases, or in all cases, we validated those and determined that there was not an overcrowding issue. And that was actually on Thursday night before we had people down there. We had that thunderstorm come through, as you may remember, and one of the establishments pulled all the people off the sidewalk inside, which in my mind is a life safety issue. You're better off not to get struck by lightning than to be in an overcrowded restaurant. When soon as the storm passed, those people were pushed back out. And they were maintaining their occupancy number. So that's what we saw. I think that while it's been a topic of a lot of the establishments and the things that they're doing wrong, I think that we should acknowledge, and I think Kevin agrees with me, but I don't want to speak for him, that they actually did it right this time. And we can't, the crowd on the sidewalk is the crowd on the sidewalk. You know, if people want to come to those establishments, they're going to gather. The establishments can't do anything else. They managed their lines, they did a good job. And I think overall, we had a lot less problems this July 4th on Friday and Saturday night than we've had in previous years. So I think that it's something that's going to continue to be a work in progress that we need to work on as a town. I think that we have some skin in that game. If speaking as a fire chief, the establishments have become successful. People want to come to Harwichport, they're coming there. We can't expect them to manage 1,000 people in the street just as long as they're managing their facility and making sure that their line's orderly. The rest of it is I think some of it's going to fall to the town, and I think we need to have further discussions about that.
Good evening. I just want to address some of the specifics from the police standpoint, just so everybody's aware of how our 4th of July period went. I want to thank Chairman and the board for having us in this comment period. We both appreciate it. First and foremost, I want to thank my entire staff for the tremendous work they did in the 4th. Policing on Cape Cod is very different and very challenging from anywhere in Massachusetts. These men and women stepped up, worked without complaint, and our results were tremendous. I want to thank Chief LeBlanc and his entire team. Prior to the 4th, both of us worked closely together, had many meetings to discuss our plans, both departments' plans, and we worked together to address whatever came up. While we did have our challenges, I consider this past 4th of July to be very successful. The plan we put in place this year was our 3rd year in a row that we put this plan into place, resulted in success. We have dramatically decreased issues at our local beaches, neighborhoods, and our thriving Harwichport district. This year, we worked with our key partners in Harwichport to proactively get in front of any issues that came up prior to the 4th weekend. And while addressing summer issues on Cape Cod is not easy, it also does not come without a cost. The overtime spent during this operational period, for us, it's July 3rd,
4th, 5th, and 6th was just over $19,600. To me, that's a small price to pay for public safety. During this time, we have a mandatory period where no one can take time off. We have a mandatory blackout period. All the staff, from me down, step up to cover shifts throughout this time frame. Many of our shifts were covered with a high number of officers assigned to many hotspots predetermined. With some of the issues that we have already identified from this past week, our team has already conducted a debrief on the 4th of July operational period, and we continue to adjust our plan for next year. I just want to address some questions that we are constantly asked, either at the department or me out and about, and that has to do with our how many people we have on the department and why we don't hire summer specials. We have a department currently staffed with 35 full-time officers. That includes from me down. Currently, due to injuries and vacancies, we have a total of 27 full-time from me down. So you can immediately see that the drought we have on staff for such weekends as 4th of July is quite evident. We are not able to hire summer specials any longer due to the regulations of the Post Commission. The Post Commission is the Police Officers Standards and Training Commission for their regulations and due to liability. Due to the post regulations and state regulations, the state does not offer reserve police academies any longer. The current specials we have on staff are retired full-time officers who assist at events such as the fireworks we had this past week. During our period of July 3rd through 6th, we had a total of 213 calls for service. We had a very high number of motor vehicle crashes, as evident by everybody that you saw out and about on Cape Cod. We had 7 fireworks complaints. We had many noise complaints at private residences and 4 arrests. I want to make it quite clear that those arrests were not associated with our beaches nor Harwich Port. One final example I'd like to conclude with, and to show you just some of the issues that pop up on the 4th of July that we deal with, is on the 4th, we had 100 plus juveniles Ubered into town. These Ubers came from, not from Harwich, from places on the Cape, but many places off the Cape. Social media was buzzing that Harwich Port was the place to be, to show up to our beaches. We immediately responded to these beaches, moved the juveniles to a central parking lot, and arranged for rides home to parents and Ubers. This incident on the 4th alone tied up 4 of my officers for over 2 hours. This is just one highlight to illustrate what we deal with on the 4th. And again, I cannot be more prouder of our staff. And we just want to thank you again for the opportunity to address some issues for the 4th of July.
And I appreciate all your efforts. That's why I did ask you to come in on behalf of the board. The public needs to know not only that you folks are aware of things, but you have been really working well together. We have a commitment as a board to work with administration to try to add the piece with DPW in to that, because there was a certain component of it that had to do with things getting messy in Harwich Port in the early morning hours. But the real headline I want everybody to understand is how long you folks have worked at this, the problem, and how well you have all worked together. So appreciate you coming in to let us know about it.
Thank you.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Okay, we're still on staff comments and announcements. I have 2 announcements. One is the annual Harwich Ecumenical Council for Housing, which includes the Children's Center. Annual Housing with Love Walk is tomorrow. It starts at 10 o'clock at Mooncusser's. In addition, there's the 7th annual Cape Verdean Festival that will happen in Brooks Park this coming weekend on Saturday, commencing at about 10:30 in the morning. I highly recommend everybody at least take in a part of that, because for those people who are new to town, Cape Verdeans are integral to the entire fabric of this town. and they've been an extremely important community, and it's really important for everybody to experience that. So again, it's the 7th annual. It's Saturday. It starts at about 10:30, but lunch doesn't happen until about 11:30 or 12. So, any further staff comments or announcements?
I'm just
Mark.
going to say one thing about the police. I'm very thankful that you had proactively put officers down there and firefighters. I think we probably avoided a lot of issues that we'd be dealing with right now. So thank you for that great policing and fire prevention. Thanks.
And I believe Mark wants to say something about the annual non-resident taxpayers meeting.
Yes, I do. We are actively publicizing. I'm getting a lot of help from Megan to have the non-resident taxpayers meeting here, Monday, 6 o'clock, August 4th. So if you know people who will here for the summer and, they pay taxes, tell them to come, because we're going to have a lot of department heads here and be open a lot for questions and answers. So thank you.
Anything else? All right, moving along. Weekly briefing. Megan.
I have 2 sewer updates. The first is for the Great Sand Lakes sewer design plans are still underway. We will need easements for construction, some temporary and some permanent easements for that work. So we'll be looking to have those on a town meeting, whether we have a special in the fall or one in the spring. Just keep that on your radar because we will need easements. And then Phase 3 sewer extension update, the 2-week look ahead. We will have crews on Bay Road, Old Carriage Drive, Charlene Lane, and Standish Woods. There will be some detours because of those. And that's it.
If I could add one more thing, just a quick status. Brooks Academy, we're still...
Oh, yes, Brooks Academy Museum, I met with our facilities maintenance manager yesterday, and we have a request for proposals drafted to go out for architectural services. So the owner's project manager, the OPM, that we just did a contract with about a month ago, has been working towards a timetable, scope of services. We will be putting that out to bid in the next 2 to 3 weeks. And once that's out to bid, we'll need to develop a design committee, design services committee that's made up of 5 to 7 people to review the proposals that will come in from architects. So talking with Sean, we're looking for a select board member, someone from the Academy Museum Commission, myself, Sean, and one other member to round it out. So you'll be seeing a memo come in the next week or 2 describing that committee and what it's all about. Also, the legal request for proposal, you had wanted an update on that. I did put something in Dropbox for you all to review from a sample from another town to see if that's what you're looking for. And if so, that's an easy grab to update with dates.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? All right. Public comments. All right, public doesn't want to make any comments, so we'll go to consent agenda.
All right, Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the Select Board meeting minutes from June 30th, 2025.
Second.
You want to do them separately, or
I'm
just?
gonna do them separately.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion about that particular one? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous.
I have to abstain, I was not here.
Okay, so it's 4-0 abstain.
I move that we approve the Select Board meeting minutes from July 8th, 2025.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further comment about the July 8th minutes? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Stay.
Opposed? One in favor, over here.
Two.
I know, I'm just not hearing you guys.
Aye.
Okay, so it's 4-0-1 again.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the resignation of Francis Crowley on the Recreation and Youth Commission effective immediately.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to accept Francis Crowley's resignation from Rec and Youth. Any further discussion?
Just one thing, Mr. Chair, I read that Mr. Crowley has served in that position for 40 years, so I hope we send out something to recognize his service to the town.
That's it? 40 years? That's all? Wow, unbelievable.
For 50, we offer a lot more.
Unbelievable. That's great.
Yes.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous.
Mr. Chair, I move that we vote to approve the following committee appointments as recommended by the Interview Committee. Darlene Mahoney, Cultural Council, full member, term to expire June 30th, 2028. And Jenny Anderson, Council on Aging, full member, term to expire June 30th, 2028.
Second?
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to accept, put forward Darlene Mahoney for the Cultural Council as a full member, and Jenny Anderson, the Council on Aging, as a full member, both to expire June 30th, 2028. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Just wanted to say what a pleasure it was to interview both Darlene and Jenny. Excellent, excellent candidates for the town of Harwich to help us move along our way, and I think I speak as well for Select Board Member Doucette, but please.
Yes. No, they were both actually very, very enthusiastic about joining our board, the boards that they came for, and very, very honored that they came forward. I think they're going to be a good addition.
Great. So, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous. New business. To review and interview Grew White Consultants. Step right up. Either way, it makes you feel more comfortable. We have a mic on this table.
Table's fine.
Good.
Rick?
Nice to see everybody. Thank you for having me. My name is Rick White. I'm the principal partner of Crew White Consulting, LLC, established in the late 90s to do executive searches for public positions, primarily town administrators, but we do a lot of department heads, executives. We do a lot of work in the Cape. Megan mentioned that you'd like to go through the proposal, and I'm happy to answer any questions. I don't want to waste your time with a long presentation if you've already read the proposal, but if you'd like me to give you an overview of what we do and how we do it, I'm happy to do that as well.
I'll open up to the board.
I'm happy to, if nobody else wants to kick it off. So appreciate you being here tonight.
Sure.
Pleasure. So I'm probably the pain in the ass that's kept asking for you to come in, because I just like to have in-person conversations as opposed to other options. But nonetheless, I think one of the biggest concerns I had, and we heard it from our council, was that the window was really expanding, and it looked more to be like a 6 or 8 month period. But I noticed in your proposal, you've got that pretty condensed. And although you say it's somewhat aggressive, you find it to be feasible.
Right.
Now, maybe, what was it, 13 weeks or so?
13 weeks. Generally, what I need is 6 to 7 weeks to do my recruitment. The rest of the time is spent with the screening committee. The rest of the schedule is dependent upon whether I can get a screening committee together and what their schedules are like and what their conflicts are like. But generally, the latest recruitments we've had have been completed between 12 and 13 weeks. My hope is that you'll appoint a screening committee. They're important. It's a good buffer for me. It's a good buffer for you. And we do all the work. We staff the screening committee. We prepare all the candidates. We do all the recruitment and bring the candidates to Harwich. But they're great sounding boards for the community.
And I appreciate, if I could, Mr. Chair, I appreciate you actually going down that road, because that was one of my follow-up questions. But back to the timeframe. How many active searches are you doing right now, roughly?
I just completed Fairhaven,
Okay.
and I'm about 3/4 of the way through Swampscott, and I'm just about 1/4 of the way through Adams.
Okay, and those, the first two you mentioned, they're relatively aligned with that 13-week timeframe that you're talking about?
Yes.
And I know you've done plenty on the Cape. When was the last Cape entity that you did work for?
I think it was Orleans.
With the current town manager they have? And was that a similar 13-week window?
Yes.
It was, okay. Roughly, do you recall how many applicants you had for that role?
I don't.
No.
In Fairhaven, I just had about 36,
Okay,
which was very good. And I had some good quality candidates. The screening committee ended up interviewing 12. In Swampscott, I have 37 applicants, and I probably have 16 that are worthy of the screening committee's attention, which in this market, given the pool of candidates and the loss of the baby boom generation, where most of the managers are coming from, it's a pretty rich pool. The Cape is a very unusual market, and it's a very intimate job and relationship. It's, you know, I spent 20 years in Lexington as the town manager there and came to Dennis.
right.
Lexington was an incredibly demanding place with very active citizenry who demanded you give everything, but it was nothing compared to the personal requirements of being a leader in Dennis, where the government is the fabric of Dennis, where people still come to pay their taxes personally, and when they come in, they want to stop in and see the town administrator and talk to them, and they want to understand who they are. And it's a much more relationship business. So fit on the Cape is incredibly important, and we do our very best to determine the culture in each of the communities that we recruit in. We go to great lengths to interview all of the professional department leaders. We ask you to give us names of citizens that you'd like us to interview so that we can get a feel for what some of the cultural and governance demands are of the community. We give out write-ups of both of those things. We share them with you, and then we get your feedback before we do anything. That usually takes us about 3 or 4 days to do. But the Cape is a very unusual market, and it doesn't have as big a recruitment pool. I think I had maybe, and I'm guessing, and
Sure.
I could be wrong, maybe 24 to 28 applicants in Orleans.
Okay.
I did Wellfleet before that, and I think we had the similar amount.
Okay, fair enough. And speaking of, you know, the difference of the Cape compared to other parts of the Commonwealth or even parts of the country, housing is an issue everywhere, right? However, it's magnified here on the Cape. I assume you stressed that point with all the candidates,
Oh, yes.
that it may be challenging for them to
Oh, yeah.
find the home in which they're accustomed to for the price point that they want to pay.
Right.
And so, thinking back to Orleans, were there a number of candidates who were potentially interested initially and then backed out because of that information, or do you recall? I know it's been a few years, I'm not asking you to be
It was
precise.
maybe a year and a half ago. We do so much pre-screening beforehand, and, you know, probably about 70% of our recruits are people who aren't really looking for a job that we try to convince that this is a great opportunity for them. We don't sell the community, we sell the professional opportunity, and then we sell the community. And we always talk about the differences in housing market. But, you know, generally, you know, my own circumstances, I still live in Lexington. I lived in Lexington when I was in Dennis, but I also had a place in Dennis. You know, I was a senior manager. I had a lot of experience, and I had a lot of equity in my home, and I was able to do it. You know, there are any number of models that you can can look at. And the housing market in Greater Boston, if anybody wanted to relocate here, is a little richer than
Sure.
the market down here, so that wouldn't be an issue. So really, it's an issue of selling the opportunity and convincing someone that it's worth coming down here. And the real estate may not be as big of an obstacle as you think it might be, but I don't want to discount it either.
I appreciate that candor. And if I could, Mr. Chair, one more before I let the others speak. Sorry to monopolize, but, so you spoke about 70% of the folks in which you reach out to or have contact with aren't even looking for a job.
Right.
What's the rough percentage of those that take the initial interview and then potentially utilize that as leverage with their current employer?
It is a violation of one of the primary tenets of the ICMA Code of Ethics to do that. And-
Only if you're caught.
Pardon me?
Only if you get caught.
Well,
No, I agree with you. I'm just telling you the facts are the facts, right?
and, I have a fairly strong reputation of integrity in the business and with the candidates. I go to great lengths to protect their confidentiality. I go to great lengths to talk about the opportunity, dissect, how they could make a difference here and how this place could make a difference to them, because it's mutual. And as part of that, I pretty much know whether or not they're ready to commit
Okay.
to the job. I can't tell you that there haven't been candidates who, once the board has discovered that that they may be interested in other opportunity, have gone to someone and said, we want you to stay here, and what will it take? But it's never gotten to the point where I've actually proposed them as a candidate publicly, and they've pulled out of consideration. I go to great lengths to protect the candidates' privacy. I keep all of the applications myself. I don't make paper copies of it. I share the electronic copies with the screening committee. They get a huge lecture on, protecting the confidentiality of the candidates. And when we do interviews, we generally do a interview off-site in a place that isn't frequented by the public, that has enough room, so I can park candidates in a room so that even the candidates don't know the other candidates. And I don't share with them the identities of the competition until each candidate gives me a signed release that their name can be public. And by that time, with all of that vetting, if there is an opportunity for a board to come and make a counteroffer to a candidate, that's already been done. I also work with the screening committee, and hopefully we have enough candidates where if one candidate pulls out before we make a final recommendation, another one will come in and take their place. Generally, we like to have 3 or 4 finalists. In Fairhaven, we had 4. In Swampscott, we'll easily have 4. You don't want more than 4 because, for a candidate, it's a lot easier to risk their current employment with a 25% chance than it is with a 20% chance. But, you want enough good candidates in a reserve so that if something happens and one candidate pulls out, that you're ready.
Excellent. Thank you for that information.
Sure.
Appreciate it. Yeah, I've got another, but I'll wait. Let others can go. They may have the same question.
Nita?
I just have one question. What is your mechanism for advertising for this position? It sounds like you have people that you may already know that are looking for a job, but do you reach out in, go ahead.
So, you may or may not know, I'm a former manager. I spent 40 years managing communities. My last responsibility was for the town of Dennis as town administrator when I retired. So I have a large network of professional colleagues that I call upon. I have a mailing list of about 400 people now, where if I have an opportunity, I'll do a brochure and I'll send it out, generally asking people to look at it if they have interest, but also asking them to make suggestions to me for people that they may know that are looking that they could hand it to. And then I do a targeted search of, I just literally take a map out of Massachusetts and surrounding areas, identify potential candidates, call colleagues to ask them for referrals and introductions, and then, make a pitch of the opportunity that exists in Harwich. I do a lot of cold calling. It's a lot of fun when you have a good opportunity. You can sell a good professional opportunity. And, we've done lots of recruitments over the last 25 years. We offer an 18-month guarantee. We figure that in 18 months, if the two of you haven't figured out whether or not you're good for each other, then, it's you and it's not us. But we've never had to fulfill the guarantee. We do a lot of, we take the motto that the hard work is in tilling the soil like a farmer. That if you till the soil and make the soil rich for a good candidate to come in and prosper, then when you do recruit them and they do come, then you've done all the work ahead of time. So the easy part for us is really doing the recruitment. The hard part is understanding the community, the opportunity, and then selling the opportunity.
Thank you.
Anything else? Mark?
Sure. Do I have the name right? Mr. Group?
Group.
Group.
My name's Rick White,
Oh,
but my
Rick, I'm
partner's
sorry.
name is
I'm sorry,
Tom
Rick.
Group.
Great proposal. Just a couple of things. Just elaborate on it, because I think the public would like to know this. The 18-month guarantee. The way I read it, if something doesn't work out within 8 minutes, you do the search again without charge. Is that correct?
That's correct.
That's an excellent feature. Are you open to hiring people from other than municipal government? In other words, a man or a woman who may be in the business environment, who may be being laid off from the federal government? Is that a potential pool of candidates?
It is. It's a tough tightrope. We are open to anybody who has great qualifications. Generally, the candidates who can make the transition from state or federal force or from the private sector have some proclivity and devotion to local government, and they understand it. Businessmen who come in who have no understanding of how municipalities work will grow incredibly impatient with the process and the politics of the public sphere. And, quite frankly, motivating employees as a CEO in a public sector and a municipal sector is completely different than it is in the private sector. So I don't want to say that unequivocally no, but generally we work really hard to see if there's some sort of connection between the person applying and their interest in the job other than economic and vocational, and if they have a real vocation for local government. And, we've placed people who've been chairman of finance committees before that have worked in the private sector, that have a good understanding. Former select board members have gone off the board, been successful in private business and decided that they wanted a career in municipal management. We've helped them transition in there. But generally, there's got to be some sort of connection there for it to work.
Just one short question. Search and screening committee, one and the same?
hopefully the screening committee job is to review the work that I've done for me to present the complete portfolio of candidates, for me to make their recommendation, and for them to make their own decisions on who they want to interview and not, and for me to be their resource. So it just depends on how you write the charge.
Okay.
It's easier for me to recruit if the candidates know that their only contact until they see a screening committee is me.
Okay, now I get it. Okay, thank you.
Jeff?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Richard, thank you for being here.
Sure.
So I only have two questions, I think. The first one, to piggyback off Mark's question regarding the screening committee. We haven't, I don't believe we've even discussed whether or not it's going to be an interest of ours as a board. But you've stressed it multiple times in your proposal and then publicly here. What would be, I guess my question is, are we behind already with respect to our discussion of whether or not we're going to have a screening committee? And would you be helpful in giving us best practices as to how many people, how this board should go about acquiring the individuals on the screening committee?
Well, personally, having been a manager and worked with screening committees on both sides, both as a consultant and as a manager, I find them helpful. Generally, you want them between 5 and 7 members. You don't want them too large. You want to be, as the board, you want a strong chairman who you trust. So you want to, when you appoint the committee, you want to appoint the chairman. Good leaders sometimes in volunteer positions sit back, and then sometimes you don't get a good leader, and that's not the case. You want a screening committee that's representative of the diverse interests of the community, but has some standing in the community. The candidates like it because they always have a friendly face that they feel has championed them and sponsored them. And the screening committee members like it because they have access to the town administrator. If they see something that they want to give them a heads up about, or caution them about, or counsel them about, they feel like they have some entrance into it, and they feel like they make a difference. For me, it was always a great sounding board, and some I trust. For other boards, generally there's a connection between the screening board members and the board, people that they trust, people long-standing leaders in the community that mean something to Harwich, that will mean something to the process.
Thank you for that, and if I could, Mr. Chair, continue. When do you see the committee first becoming engaged in the process? Around what week in your process?
Around the 6th or 7th week.
6th or 7th week, okay. And then
You have plenty of time.
we have plenty of time, great. We'll see. And then my last question, of the candidates that you see applying for town administrator positions, what is the average number of years of experience? I know, tough question, but are you seeing all over the board 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, and 10 years?
I always like to give this, and I'll answer that directly, but I always like to give the screening committee an array of candidates that help them understand who they want. So generally, there's a variety and diversity of experience and backgrounds of the candidates. Generally, the people who aren't managers, they may be assistant managers, have had 5 to 10 years of experience. They started off working in budgets or an analyst and became an assistant and worked under a decent manager, were able to make their mistakes, see the mistakes of the person that they work for, and they're ready to full-blown stuff. In Fairhaven, I think the average tenure of the finalists, all 4 of them were chief administrative officers. There was one person that had a tenure of 3 years. Another was 6, one of 9, and one with significantly more. So, you know, right now, the pool, as I see it, is the profession had a lot of interest to baby boomers, inspired by, you know, the times and commitment to service and to government. And during the Reagan years, there was a focus of youth on business, and, you know, there was a gap. Just now, we're starting to see more interest in service and in government. So, you know, a big gap, like I've explained, is probably consistent with what I've been seeing most places. Here, you're likely to get someone who's been, had some success in other places and is looking to make a change, and not to gear down in their profession, but, you know, maybe towards the end of the profession, and you'll have some people in the beginning of it. But I don't think you'll see a lot of people in the middle.
Excellent, thank you very much. I have nothing more.
Okay. And in answer to one of your questions, I've tried to sequence this because I knew Mr. Pekarsky wanted to have a discussion with the consultant first. I can guarantee you the follow-on discussion about what that selection committee is will be on the next week's agenda, so it just followed in order.
Thank you, sure.
Sure. Pete, did you have anything more?
No, Jeff pretty much covered the question I had, so thank you.
Anyone else have any follow-ups?
Selectman Doucette, did I answer all your questions?
Yes,
Okay.
fine. You're good. Thank you
Okay.
very much.
All right, well, thank you for coming in. Appreciate
Right.
your time.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay. Moving along, we have Mr. Chiavi here for consideration for appointment of the interim town administrator. And if- just come on up wherever you feel more comfortable, there or here.
Here's fine. Thank you very much. I appreciate being asked to come in and have this conversation with the board, and it's an honor to have been asked, so thank you for having me this evening.
So I want to, the way I want to approach this, if you want to make some sort of introductory comment, then that's fine, then we'll try to go to the board. And
Yeah, I think, yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I think it's important just for the board to know, but also for the community, that prior to getting the request to come in and speak with the board, I was happily retired, coming up on 4 years, living a nice quiet life in East Harwich. I had been approached a couple of times about interim roles, and very quickly said I retired for a reason. I'm very happy with that. Time with family is most important. But this is different, because this is our hometown, my family's hometown. Raised our family here, kids went to school here, our grandchildren are here. Obviously have a stake in the success of our community and its leadership. And so I very quickly, told myself that, I have a personal responsibility to at least listen and evaluate if I can be of value to this board as you maneuver through a leadership transition, the time it takes to do that, knowing that at the end of that, you're making a very important decision about our next chief administrative officer for our town. So if I can help in some small way or even a big way, I'm happy to listen and entertain that and see what it is the board is really looking for the interim to accomplish over whatever that period of time might be, and whether I can add value to that. So thank you.
All right, I will add that we have your rather extensive resume sitting in the packet for the public if they want to look at it, but I'm going to go to the board for comments or questions.
Mr. Chair, I'll start if Pete?
No, feel free.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you for being here, Mr.
Sure.
Chiavi.
You're welcome.
And, I'll start by saying thank you for your service. I have several questions, Mr. Chair, and I'll try to be brief with these if I could. Some of them are to the board, some of them down the road will probably be to you. And I'll lead by saying that my questions and my position has absolutely nothing to do with you. Your resume, your background is wildly impressive. I don't think anybody would disagree with that. But if anybody's been paying attention over the last couple of weeks, my position has been clearly stated. So I just wanted to make that clear. It wouldn't matter who's there.
Perfectly fine.
So I have a couple questions for the board. You made a point right off the bat. You said, you're looking to bring value to the board. As I sit here right now, this board, at least where I sit, has not defined the expectation of the incoming or even the current acting town administrator. I don't know what we're offering. I don't know if this is a 40-hour-a-week position. I don't know whether or not this is a vote to appoint tonight. I'm a little confused at the agenda item. I thought we were getting to meet Mr. Schiavi tonight, but I see votes may be taken. So I'm wondering whether or not there is an expectation of a vote tonight, Mr. Chair.
As you well know, there can't be a vote unless there's a statement that the vote may be taken. I have no expectation whatsoever. That's the way I post.
Excellent. Thank you. That's my first question. My second question is, what is the expectation of the incoming or the current? This board hasn't really discussed that yet. So back to a conversation that we had earlier tonight about expectations. I'm not even sure Mr. Schiavi understands what we're looking for.
Well, let me just say this. I think it's a little uncomfortable if you have him in and we need, for the purpose of asking him questions, to go to a conversation that could well happen after that discussion right here tonight. I can tell you what I'm feeling about this is, and I've made that abundantly clear over the last several years, the morale in the town's workforce has been continuously slipping. So job one to me would be to reassemble the team in a way where collegiality is restored and basically the work ethic is already there, but the people aren't working in the same direction. We need to have some coherence, we need to have some stability, but stability doesn't necessarily mean doing the same thing and finding the same result. We are where we are. We've known we were going to be to this place for at least 6 months. To a certain degree, we knew about a year. And we're behind in planning on this because of that. So I would like to have the discussion you want to have, but after we have the discussion with Mr. Schiavi, out of deference to his time, because he was invited here to have people ask him questions.
No, and I understand that, and that's why I prefaced by saying,
Okay?
I just need a little bit more clarity as to how we got here and where we're going.
Morale is the
Okay,
one word.
Well, that's great to hear from you. I obviously would like to hear from other board members because it's a board decision.
That it is.
Is the intention to have one candidate?
Again, I don't want to keep going back over this. If you want to have this discussion
question.
if you want to have this discussion after Mr. Schiavi's had an opportunity to have a discussion with the board, you can have at it. I think it's basically unfortunate that you're taking his time for a discussion with this board on a subject that you have brought up before, and
got no answers to. So I'll ask this. You mentioned in an email to me, it was Pete's expressed desire to move with Tony in the long term. It was Pete's desire. I'm wondering who's bringing this forward? Who's bringing this candidate forward? Is it you, or is it Pete, or is it both?
it's neither. It is a discussion here to bring a candidate forward. We've had this discussion, Mr. Handler.
I could read the email chain clearly stating and showing that we did not have this discussion.
That we did not have this?
Look,
We certainly had a verbal discussion, and now you have made yourself abundantly clear. We know exactly where you're coming
I
from.
would just like to get an answer. Who is bringing the candidate forward? That's it. You said neither. Yet the last two meetings, it was you
The
who brought
board,
the candidate
yes.
forward. So is it the board or is it you who's bringing this forward?
I've had conversations with a number of people who would, and you know this because I related this to you, a number of people who might potentially be capable of being an acting town administrator, but I do not have the authority or the ability to appoint anybody. That's why Mr. Shelby's here tonight, to have a discussion with the whole board.
I agree, and I'm glad he's here. I'm just, again, trying to gain clarity as to, well, let me ask one more question. When did Pete say that to you? That it's his expressed desire, because Pete stated he didn't know Mr. Schiavi. So it seems a little
He
bit.
wanted to bring forward a candidate. We have already discussed, we did not want to continue on with an acting a person in two different positions in the office. You were the one who said that you wanted to do that. The board wanted to go forward. Unless you're going to convince the entire board tonight that we shouldn't have any discussion at all about any future town administrator role, Mr. Schiavi is the person who's in front of us right now.
And I respectfully agree with what you just said, 100%. I understand Mr. Schiavi is here, and I stated I'm glad he's here. If it is the board's will to have one candidate and interview no other candidates.
We have not gotten to that point. We haven't even been able to allow him to have questions from the board because of where you're going.
So then my follow-up question would be, what is our plan to, are we going to advertise? I would like that to be on the next agenda. So it's about steps. It's about how we got here and where we're going. I'm looking forward to having this conversation with Mr. Schiavi. I think he's an incredible candidate. And if we have 5 or 6 people who reply to an advertisement and Mr. Schiavi is the one, or if Mr. Schiavi is the one because tonight he knocks everyone's socks off, I'm all in. I'm going to work 100% in concert with the town administrator. That's the oath I took. And that's exactly what I will do. I'm simply saying the process is something I'm having a problem with. And I will yield, and we can move forward in the interest of Mrs. Schiavi's time. I agree with you that we don't need to take up his time discussing board things that I think should have been discussed before we brought him before us. That's my point. So I'll yield. Thank you.
And I will repeat that if we'd had any of these discussions knowing that we were going to have a transition even 6 months ago, which we did, if we had started then, we would be further along now. But we didn't. So we are where we are. So, I guess I'll start with you, if you wouldn't mind. On day one, you're coming in. What would you conceive of being one of your top priority tasks on that day?
Well, I would say absent, remember, this is an interim role, right, not a permanent. So you got to think of it from that standpoint. So clearly, as an interim, some of that, direction ought to come from the board. But absent that, certainly my number one thing, and I use this in every job, whether it would be permanent or otherwise, although I've only held permanent town administrator and town manager positions. But, first and foremost, is to quickly get up to speed on town issues, departmental issues. I always start off with a department head meeting. And I'll get to the steps in a minute, but essentially to introduce them to who I am, I talk a lot about my leadership style. I talk about values of integrity first, service before self, excellence in everything we do. Those are my values that are not negotiable, and so I expect that of the people that work with me and work for me, whether they call them that or something different. We are public servants, and it's important that we do our work in that regard. And then I talk a little bit about my leadership style, right? Because I think that's important, that people want to know what to expect. And I'm a collaborative type leader. If anybody read the paper, there was actually a nice article in there, because I think most people think when you come from the military, it's all about hierarchy and top-down and authoritative. I don't think people understand the military did away with that, certainly in the world that I grew up in a long time ago. And it's as a leader, which I think is the most important part of the job, to ensure that you inspire people, create teamwork, empower them. give them the support and the resources to do their job. So we talk a little bit about that and how I go about doing that. We talk about communication. That is one of the most important things in any organization, and it's not just top-down. It's top-down, bottom-up, and side-to-side. And that includes the communication that I would have with the board, and we talk about why it's important that we all communicate so that there's a shared vision, people understand where we're taking this train, if you will, and what we're trying to accomplish, and everybody sort of pulls in the same direction. And that leads into having a positive climate and culture within your organization, right? And again, that's spread out through the entire organization. It's built on trust. That trust has to be earned, but at the same time, people know that they're trusted to do their jobs. There's accountability that goes along with that, and obviously the resources. We talk about personnel and human capital, right? It's what makes everything run, and it's important that everybody within our organization takes care of their people. They coach them, they mentor them, they collaborate with them, they allow them to come up with ideas, because I have this philosophy that people that feel valued and appreciated will actually do more than you ever expect that they'll do. Now, the three things that I do right off the bat, I mentioned getting up to speed on town issues and departmental issues, and that includes the good and the bad. And so I emphasize to them to be honest with me, because if you're not honest with me, it's hard for us to then develop a plan to address those issues, because at the end of the day, that's part of our job, to make sure we run smoothly, we run efficiently, we run effectively. We're working with taxpayer money, taxpayer dollars, we're delivering services and programs to residents, and we deal with businesses. Next to that is to sit down with the department heads and make sure I have a good understanding on where they stand with manning, with budget, with personnel issues. I ask them where they see the department today. Where do they plan on taking it over the next 3 and 5 years? That's sort of that vision as we push out into the future. And lastly, when I capture that information, is really to start developing roadmaps to address it. I'm a project kind of milestone kind of person, so we start up by coming up with plans to address those departmental or townwide issues if there are any. We take a look at post-town meeting actions or the things that we need to make sure people get through town meeting. They're like, town meeting's over. But there's a lot of to-do stuff that come after town meeting. I think we heard the other evening, Megan gave a great presentation, I think 70 some odd projects. Now, some of those arguably are several years old, so I want to get in and basically with her and understand that and try to, if it's a backlog there, an issue like that, how do we deal with that? And then we look at our execution and budget. We're just closing out fiscal year 25. I assume the budget transfers will probably be done about no later than tomorrow. Got to get the Schedule A done. I'm kind of a proponent of I want to see our free cash generally certified at the beginning of October. Harwich, I think, if I remember, it seems to be on a later time schedule. I don't really know why. But in my prior jobs, we had fall town meetings, and that free cash was vitally important for a number of reasons. But also it helps to analyze the things that make up that free cash so that then I can incorporate some of that information into what does that mean from a budgeting standpoint and where we can make adjustments depending on whether that's underestimated revenues or whether it's departmental budgets that are coming in significantly under. So we need to work on that. And certainly September starts budget preparation time, which is obviously something that's very important. And so I start to develop those roadmaps and those plans. And so there's a lot of balls up in the air. I make sure people know there's a lot of things that go on day to day, right? And so I'm there to help manage those priorities, discuss those priorities with them, because very often people feel overwhelmed. They're not sure which, frankly, is the closest alligator, right? So we talk about that and what makes the most impact. So those are, really the approach that I take, but time frame becomes the key factor. If what Mr. White said of 12 or 13 weeks, I mean, you're not going to move heaven and earth in 12 or 13 weeks. So you got to be able to quickly prioritize, what's most important to get done. So that's kind of how I view that. Maybe a long answer to a short question, but I kind of always approach it the same way.
Mark?
Sure. John, if I call you Tony?
That's fine.
Tony, thanks for coming tonight. I just read a couple of things, and you don't have to spend much time on it. Outcome-focused budgeting. What does that mean?
Well, essentially, I wanted, so when I showed up in Ashland, and I'm a big strategic planning type person, I think it's important that organizations have a vision, they understand their mission, they have a set of values that they filter everything through, and then have objectives and goals so that everybody kind of knows where they're going. When I arrived in Ashland, we didn't have that. And so I quickly established the town manager's 8 strategic priorities and objectives. And what I told the staff was, as we went to build the budget, and Ashland, just like it was in Bourne, was utilizing free cash to balance their budget, which is generally frowned upon practice from the Government Finance Officers Association, and so we needed to wean ourselves off that. And I said, as we basically rebuild our budgets, you need to be able to show how the money that you're requesting, and this was particularly important for new spending, how that was going to satisfy one or many of those strategic priorities that we set. And so what it does, it ties what the department does to what the expected outcome is. And it's transparent so that the residents and the voters can see what the expected outcome of the money that they appropriate for each of the departments. Give you an example. In Department of Public Works, one of our initiatives, right, was to establish a pavement management index and a pavement management plan. Because everybody said, well, pave my road, pave this road, fill that pothole, DPW is running all over, didn't know which way to go. But there needs to be a priority, and so we put the money, because you gotta put the resources to it, we put the resources to develop a pavement management index and a plan so that everybody could see the condition of every road in town and what the expected, rough time frame for work, whether it's a full depth reconstruction, whether it's a mill and overlay, whether it's chip seal, right, how we were gonna address those, those priorities, and they could see and say, well, that makes sense, they have a plan. It's not haphazard. And so we tied outcomes, and the same thing for Council on Aging, same thing for Recreation, right, because they're delivering services and programs to residents. And so through that budget, we were able to not only continue what we were already doing, but in several areas, we actually were able to enhance programming and actually do more. We were able to keep our library open full hours, right, which they were losing a state share of library because we weren't open full-time, so they penalize you for that. So not only did we put the resources there to have the library open for the requisite number of hours, we then captured that state aid we were losing, so it was a win-win. But you establish, you tell them what those outcomes, what you expect to get. And then the employees understand what they're doing and why they're doing it, and they see a tangible result coming out the back end and not just, moving the paper along and not really making it. So it's connecting them to the mission of their department and how they work together. There's very few departments that something that they do doesn't affect somebody else. And so what that did, we created an environment where department heads were solving problems between themselves and not coming to me, right? They built that teamwork amongst themselves and saw the interaction, that the things that they did and how it affected other organizations, right? So anyways, it's really tying people to a concrete, objective, concrete outcome, and not just the budget sort of disappears and knows, what did we actually get for that, right? So that's how we do that. Very effective.
Just one other question. I think it was in Ashland, you did some economic development. Just explain that. Do you see any potential for that here in Harwich?
We did. Ashland's in Metro West, and we actually did the first economic development plan for the town, and at the end, as I was walking out the door, hired the economic development director, who's still there doing amazing stuff. But we started with an EDSAT, which is through Northeastern University, the Dukakis Center, and it stands for Economic Development Self-Assessment. So we brought a multidisciplined group together of town employees, real estate agents, business owners, folks from the chamber, right, and we basically went through a self-assessment about Ashland's economic development opportunities, and we included the residents to say, look, economic development is just not we're going to do anything. It's about what are the types of what goods and services you want to see come to Ashland, right? They quickly said, I don't want to disparage McDonald's or Burger King, but they wanted a higher level of goods and services in their community, right? And so we started with that. Then we hired a consultant, Anderson Strategic Advisors, to come in and help us build our economic development plan, which I addressed in my State of the Town address, which was another initiative I had, to let people know what was coming up at town meeting, and that economic development piece was huge. We didn't have the meal tax back then. Everybody around us had it. I'm not in favor of new taxes. But we quickly found out that people would drive to the next town to get a gallon of gas to save 3 cents. But they're not going to go to a different restaurant in a different town to save 0.25% for a meals tax. And so that was a couple $100,000 of new revenue. And my philosophy that I use is if we find new revenue, we want to tell you how we're going to spend it. It's not going to end up in the black hole of the general fund, okay? And so we went to town meeting and everybody was like, okay, what are we going to spend money on? 60% went to economic development. The other percentages went between the library, which is, I just addressed what that money went to and the success we had with that. And the second, and the last was on the Council on Aging, right? Was the last part of that. And although the money goes into the general fund, they're like, well, how do we know you're gonna do that? I said, because the outcomes that we say we're gonna do, you're gonna actually see those. And if you think we're not doing what we said we would do, then you call us on it, right? And that's an accountability. That accountability works always, right? Including with the residents and voters at town meeting, holding us accountable to do what we said we would do. So, so that's how we did that, and we have an economic development director. In Bourne, they had one on the books for quite a while, never funded. Again, as I was departing in my last budget, we actually, within our current resources, and had weaned ourselves off of free cash for the budget, were able to establish an economic development department, a facilities department, and IT as well, which again is a huge thing in today's world. Everything revolves around IT, and you have to protect your information or you could be in trouble.
Thank you,
So-
Tony.
Mita.
Hi, Tony. Thank you very much for being here tonight.
Welcome.
It's always nice to see you.
Likewise.
Thank you. I did a lot of reading on your resume, very nice. Thank you very much again, once for your service, and thank you for the years that you spent in government. You had mentioned in here on your resume that you expanded citizens' engagement. Was that in your role as being an administrator or a manager, and what strengths did you bring to that position?
Well, it wasn't a position per se, right? So
Okay.
citizens' engagement was really about making sure that government was connected with the people.
Okay.
And
Thank you.
so we did that in a number of ways. I had, biannual town manager, town meeting, meetings. Essentially, I basically went through the entire town meeting before a town meeting, because I had this philosophy that I did not want anybody, any voter, to show up at town meeting, get the warrant, and not understand what it is we were asking them. Because some of those decisions arguably are tens of millions of dollars, and if you come in and are, just reading it for the first time. So we explained things, especially some of the things that might have been a little bit more complicated, and not all budget related, but other things that we were trying to do with housing projects, some other land acquisition things. We did some really kind of interesting things to try to shape Ashland and not be shaped from the outside, right? And so I have this saying, you can either plan or be planned upon. And so we, and with the Board of Selectmen, were, obviously partners in this, was to ensure that our citizens knew everything that we were doing and understanding why. The other piece of that was doing the town manager state of the address. Again, that happened in the spring before town meeting, where I gave them a preview about what they would expect to see in the budget and some of the new initiatives that we were proposing and what those benefits would be, again, so that they would have a better understanding of things going into that town meeting. So a lot of it was about really making sure the citizen, and they were, trust me. The other thing I would say too is, and these are particularly with housing projects, can be very controversial at times, and we had some of those. And again, this goes to shaping your future versus being shaped. I would have meetings with those, in those neighborhoods. A lot of times people say, oh, come to town hall, we'll meet in the Griffin Room and we can talk about X housing. I actually went and stood in kitchens of those folks so that I could get a good understanding of what their concerns were, and whether we could alleviate those concerns, and brought that back to the selectmen. And we were active participants in front of the planning board, in front of ZBA, and, 3 major projects that we did were successful, I think primarily because of the ability of the selectmen, of my office, of others, to actually engage with the citizens that are generally in town, and particularly those that are directly impacted by some of those developments. And we're able to shape them down, which size always tends to be the key thing that people focus on a lot on these housing projects, is the density. So So, yeah, I strongly believe in that citizen engagement aspect of the
So it
job.
sounds like you were trying to bring everybody in together so they had a better understanding of how their government works.
Correct.
Thank you.
And I believe that one of the initiatives I had, although I didn't actually get to it, but I think they have now, is they now have a Citizens Academy. Again, as another way to bring citizens in, and it was on our strategic plan, wasn't executed before I left, but it has been executed since then. And again, that's a force multiplier when people actually, have a much better understanding of the inner workings of their government, so.
Well, the town did
Yeah.
have a Citizens Academy years ago, and
Yeah.
for some reason, it's gotten dropped. But.
It's a lot of
then-
work, but,
It is-
again,
it
it's one of
is.
the priorities, but it's very helpful if it can be done.
Correct. Thank you very much.
If I could, thank you, and in my first couple of questions may answer one of Selectman Handler's questions. Could you, because I'm hard of hearing and I can't see, so my future's bright, could you pronounce your last name for me?
Schiavi,
Schiavi.
as my Italian teacher would say, the CH is a K.
There you go. Thank you very much for that clarification. As a Pollock, I need help.
Okay.
But depending on who says the name, I hear it differently, which is why I was asking you
Okay,
directly.
it's been much worse, trust me.
Mom always said when you want to talk to the horse, talk to its head, so there it is.
Right.
Thank you for that information. Mr. Schiavi, you and I have never met, never spoken, correct?
Not that I'm aware of.
Yeah, nor have I. So, not that I'm aware of either, so thank you for that. So, I too want to thank you for your service, clearly a distinguished career, and we need more men and women like you who step up and serve this country, so thank you for that. Truly appreciate it. My questions are a little bit more specific to your interaction with the Select Board. And clearly, you've had the experience in two communities. Specifically, how do you communicate with a five-member board? So when I say specifically, how often, which methods, what type of interaction do you best prefer and to get messages across?
Well, typically, would be via email. I had to work on this a little bit to make sure that we didn't fall afoul of the open meeting law. So typically, what I would do is would have the board all on the BCC line. And I would start the email off to the Board of Selectmen. And the board knew that unless I included anybody else, it's those five people, or however many constituted the board. And would do that via email. And, it's not so much, sort of a status report. I'm not a huge fan of that. I've implemented before and quickly changed my mind when I realized the amount of time my people were spending on doing that type of thing. So it's really more about if there are issues or things that the board needs to be aware of. One of my first meetings with department heads, I have a list of 10 critical information reporting requirements. If any of these 10 things happen, you need to call me right away. And the reason for that is to never be surprised. And I share with them that means that you all are never surprised. And not be afraid of bad news. If something happens, it's a tuna sandwich thing, right? When you put the tuna sandwich in the drawer and you close it, it never smells any better than the day you put it in. So if something happens, let's get on it, let's address it. I have a lot of experience in risk communication and handling, crisis management if it's something very serious. But it's really to make sure the board always knows what's going on, right? Now, I'm not giving it to you in, nth detail, but it's to make sure that you're aware of that things are happening, right? And to be aware of what is going on. An opportunity if you have a question about it. The reason I put people in the BCC is you can't reply to all. And so it ensures that, we don't, trip up anything where there becomes any kind of coordination, if you will, can be misconstrued. So that saves that, but it keeps the board informed. If it's a time-critical thing, obviously it takes a long time to make 5 phone calls, but there may be things that aren't gonna go in writing for whatever the reason is, and then it's individual, phone calls. But on the other side of it, and I tell my department, never live in silence, right? People do not like silence. I return every phone call, every email, whether it's a board member, whether it's a citizen, whoever. Makes for long days sometimes, but never leave anybody hanging. So my door is always open. I always make time, even if it extends my day or I have to push something off. If a board member needs to, speak with me or see me, I'll do whatever I can to make that happen. So I don't want, the board ever to feel, sort of isolated. That just doesn't help anybody. We're all in this together, and I'm your primary conduit for a lot of things, whether it's implementing policy you may have come up with or other directives. I need to make sure that I keep the board informed of the progress of those, types of taskings, if you will.
Thank you for that, appreciate it. And specific to the charter, I assume, since you're a townie, you've had the opportunity to review the charter and
When
specifically
I
the
could
role of-
find it,
Yeah.
yes, it took a while. Websites are one of my things that I'm the one-click mentality, and I think a lot of residents are too, right? You click once or twice, we don't find what you're looking for. So I know websites are always in people's vision about how do we improve that, but that's, I'm not, it just took me a while to find it. But I have not read it cover to cover, but I certainly read section 4.
Sure.
Related to the town administrator.
And so with that in mind, anything that, gives you reservation or pause and says, maybe this isn't,
No, it's a little different construct than what I'm used to. I mean, I served under both a strong town manager construct and a strong town administrator, but being in the military, you always understand who you work for, right? And where that authority lies. So we're in the military, trained from day one that know your authority, know where it comes from, and then exercise that prudently and judiciously, right? And so within the charter, there are certain things the board's responsible. I'll mention, contracts, for instance, right? The board gets a lot of contracts put in front of them. They may delegate that signature to the town administrator, but at the end of the day. So in my world, I was signing contracts. It was me who did that. So no, I think really for me, timeframe is key. And I think as Mr. Handler mentioned for a future discussion is understanding. Remember, this is an interim. I'm talking about a lot of stuff that you're not going to do in 12 weeks, but may give you a little insight of the kind of person you may be looking for, which I think is important to understand that aspect of it. But is to understand that, the time frame and if the board has, priorities. And remember, I'm retired. I wasn't looking for work, so I'm here at the board's request to have this discussion and potentially serve in a role to assist you all and the staff and the community, frankly. So no, I don't think any reservation. I'm a planner, so I have lots of personal goals I established for myself over the next year, some of which I may have to put on hold. So I have to evaluate that based on, what the board's feeling is on what they'd like to see done and accomplished, and whether I'm the person that you would want to carry those forth. And then we go from there. So I would say no reservations other than looking at time.
Sure, okay, thank you. And to kind of touch on that point you just made, and again, to answer one of Mr. Handler's questions, I foresee this as a full-time role, and the position would fulfill the duties as they're outlined within the charter. I don't see us needing to recreate a job description. I think a job description exists. It's just on an interim basis, and the individual would serve out the responsibilities within the contract during the tenure that they have with the town of Harwich. So that's how I foresee it going down. Moving on quickly, if I could, Mr. Schiavi, and you don't have to get too granular and/or specific with people, but what would some of your former town employees and board members say about you to us?
Well, certainly the board has, the two boards that I work for spoke, during my performance evaluations. I can't quote them off the top of my head,
Sure.
but they were all excellent. I think, building teamwork, building a culture of accountability, obviously being able to manage multiple things at the same time. But also, as a leader today, it's not about doing everything yourself, right? And I think I mentioned that at the outset. So the leadership piece of the job, obviously coming out of the military, was something that was just ingrained in me, and brought that in both of the organizations who had some morale issues, some other things. I don't shy away from tough tasks. Sometimes there are those. You have to be able to deal with those, head on. But I think being collaborative, keeping the board informed, accomplishing some pretty heavy lifts in a relatively short amount of time. I think, government people think, the wheels of government move slow. As a former fighter pilot, running around at Mach 2 most of my life, time is one of those things that is of the essence. The more you can get done the quicker you can actually start knocking things, off your list. I think the board was, and Bourne particularly, when they saw my to-do list was, 2 pages long, double, single-spaced, 2 columns each page, lots of stuff crossed off, immediately put back on. There's never a shortage of things to accomplish. But I think really, building morale, building retention, the loss of human capital in any organization is very expensive. It's not just the person that's not there now doing the job, and now you have to find somebody to come in, then train them. Retention becomes a very important part. And so part of that retention is taking care of your people. People knew that I cared about them. I would often go around and speak with them at all different levels, want to know how they're doing, what do they see, what's going on. And so that's kind of how I approach things. So I think most of the department heads and other staff and boards would probably look at it that way, so.
Excellent, thank you. And I hope Mr. White is correct, but I guess I'm a skeptic that 13 weeks he's going to deliver a new town administrator. Interim position, if it goes beyond 13 weeks, you just alluded to your personal schedule, does that impact your availability down the road?
To me, the shorter is, this is just for me personally, shorter is not better. Again, 13 weeks, 3 months. Again, depending on, if there are not major muscle movements you need to see happening, major things you want to move the needle on, 3 months goes by, pretty quickly. So, obviously, there's a number of ways to do this, and different boards, you mentioned full-time versus, part-time. I think it's a full-time. If you're gonna do it right, and it's more of a full-time role. Other towns have done things different. Now, some of that's based on folks that are in this line of interim work that are pensioned, because they're limited by how much they can work. I don't have that constraint on me. But if you're gonna say, I'm gonna work Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, whatever, pick 3 days a week, which many towns hire somebody to do that. Generally speaking, it's really to kind of keep the lights on, sign some paperwork, right? If anything major happens within the responsibilities of the town administrator, you handle those. But you don't know, something's happening on Monday or something's happening on Friday, and, you can't not be there. And so, there's ways to look, and I think that goes to what does the board want to get out of, if it is 12 weeks or 13 weeks, what does the board hope to get out of the interim during that time? If there are major things that need to get looked at, whether they're morale related and culture and climate, which I've dealt with those in both the towns I was in. Change leadership is one of my, strongest skills in changing organizations and culture. You're not doing that in 12 weeks. I mean, it just doesn't pay to do that. You may have other options available to you to fill the role other than myself. So, again, I think for me, it's really getting a good understanding of what the board hopes to accomplish over time. The thing with recruitments, just briefly, and you've seen some of this in Bellingham, Foxborough, things kind of fell apart and end up being a lot longer. So, I think as the board has an opportunity to discuss the qualities and different aspects of what they want to see in their next town administrator, needs to be the key focus of the consultant, to find somebody that has those characteristics. Now, and I don't want to get too long-winded here, it's hopeless, but when I first I came out of the military. He didn't mention military, which there are people in the military getting out of the military, getting into these roles because of their leadership experience, because we're put in situations all the time when I won't say we don't know anything about the job they put us into, but you could be flying airplanes one day and the next day you're in charge of acquisitions at the Pentagon. And you don't have the luxury of taking 3 months, 3 weeks, or 3 days to figure out what you're doing, right? And so we quickly know how to get into unknown territory and get our feet firmly on the ground. So, but I went through a very different process than most consultants use. And I went through what I would basically call an assessment center that are used primarily for police chiefs and fire chiefs, which are very rigorous, much more in-depth in a lot of ways. So, that's just something for you potentially to think about, to talk with the consultant about how, what process you want them to use to pull somebody out. But whether it can happen in 12 weeks, it really depends on the quality and quantity of
Right.
the folks that you get.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Any other questions?
Yeah, just a couple for Mr.
Sure.
Schiavi. Thank you for clarifying that.
That's okay.
You know, it's obvious you've created an incredibly solid system for you to operate with, and I commend you on that. I always say be incredibly or fiendishly good at the basics, right? The thing that really stuck out when I was going through your resume was that you achieved a Standard & Poor's AAA bond rating in Ashland. That is a massive accomplishment, so.
It was, but again, that goes with setting high bars, because nobody said it was possible, and we had 2 bond ratings in 1 year, which, again, was almost unheard of, and my chair was, well, it wasn't really cold, because fortunately, I had mentored my assistant to the point that my recommendation to the board to do a direct appointment worked, so my chair wasn't cold for very long, but that came out a couple of weeks after I left Ashland, that we had done the bond rating call before that, but that's setting stretch goals, right? And don't, I don't work in the world of no. Hard things require a lot of work. And so I always tried, if it's important enough, to work towards yes. And when I set out in Ashland to say, hey, we're gonna go from a double A, stable outlook, double A plus stable outlook to triple A, I was serious. And so we set, we researched everything, figured out what we need to do, and we started on that road at Bourne as well, and had some bond rate upgrades there as well, through good financial policies, good financial management, which didn't exist when I first arrived. We wrote those with the signatories of the select board, the school committee, the finance committee, the school superintendent, and myself, so that we're all on the same sheet of music when it came to spending funds. So thank you for that. It
Yeah,
was a
sure.
team accomplishment. It wasn't mine alone. And
Always
most of
is.
these things are team accomplishments.
Sure,
at
always
that-
is. This is one that I got very curious about. The Select Board Strategic Planning Retreat. Now, I'm not saying I want to go on a retreat with these 4 people.
Well, the retreat would be right here, but
I'm
that's
just-
okay.
Saying, tell me about that. That's really something.
So if you go further back, I actually wrote, put a multidiscipline group together while I was at the base and wrote our strategic plan. And the vision started off with to be universally recognized and respected as the #1 Air National Guard unit in the intelligence community. Everybody's like, holy cow, we haven't been in this mission for a month. We achieved that right before I gave up command, through 3 inspections. And I found the value in organizations that have a vision. Now, the vision is where you're trying to get to, right? And so that overarching vision is, what do we want people to think about when they hear the town of Harwich, or the town of Ashland, or the town of Bourne, or any organization? And it's a lofty one, but it lets everybody know where we're all moving towards, so that they understand what the objective is. And then we write our mission statement second to that. Now, this retreat, we sat down, the 5 select board members, myself and the assistant, and I facilitated that to come up with our vision statement, our mission statement, and most importantly, what are our community values? What are the things that are most important to us as a community? Because as you have things come before you, or discussions, one thing you never do is violate your core values, right? And so that becomes a surrounding thing around your vision and your mission statement and your strategic goals. That becomes the filter that you put everything through to make sure we stay true to our core values, right? Integrity, environmental stewardship, right? There's a lot of different ones you can put there. And so we wrote those, and then we began to write down our strategic objectives. And that begins to give you the granularity of the concrete things that you're gonna do, that's gonna eventually move you further towards that vision. And remember, that vision is out in front. The decisions that we're all making, you're all making today, are not for today, they're for 1 and 2 generations ahead. And we need to be thinking about and being connected to the those people that are gonna be the recipients of all the decisions that we implement and make. And so that strategic plan, and it's out there for the entire public to see. So again, as we propose something, so, oh yeah, that's in accordance with the strategic plan. They said they were gonna look at that. There's a lot of stuff around, even in Ashland and Bourne, on environmental things, worried about water quality, wastewater, right? And what are the things we're gonna do to make sure that we maintain healthy infrastructure to protect the environment? Housing is one as well. Some were related to different types of programming that we wanted to bring forth to the community, because they said they wanted that. Some intergenerational programming at the community center, connecting young people with the older generation, the older folks, and the value that can come both ways with that. So I'm just a huge supporter of that and what it can help, not just the board, but in letting the community know where it is we're actually trying to take our community.
Thank you very much. That's all from me, Mr. Chair.
Well said, thank you.
I'm good.
Okay. Thank you for coming in,
Okay,
Tony. Appreciate
thank you
it.
very much. I appreciate your
Being here.
time. All right. Best of luck.
Thanks again.
Weighty decisions.
Appreciate
yes.
it.
Read the discussion, vote, or you gonna take it?
Well, it's up to whatever you guys want to do. If you want to have further discussion tonight, you want to have it agendaed for next week, after you had some time to ponder it, just give me an idea.
As far as if we want to move forward with a decision this evening?
Mhm.
You know, I heard what Selectman Handler said, and typically I lean towards seeing and hearing from more people than less. I'm not, at this point, because I think we're so far behind, a proponent of advertising this. I think we're 30 days out from getting somebody, and, you know, to me, that is too long of a window. So, I asked Mr. Schiavi a specific question, because I had the opportunity over the last 2 weeks, unbeknownst to him or pretty much any of you, to reach out to some of his former select board members and some of his former employees. They had no idea I was calling. I didn't use anybody as a resource to find these folks. Good old-fashioned Google world. And the response that Mr. Schiavi gave essentially mirrored what I heard from his board members and his employees. He had a gift of bringing a team together to solving problems. And again, if this is a 13-week role, you know, it's going to be limited on the scope and success of certain things. But with all that said, I'm not sure we're going to find a more committed and capable candidate for this role. And so I'd be comfortable moving forward tonight if it's the will of the board.
I would too. Thank you.
I would be willing to move forward. I think he's an excellent candidate, and I find no reason to delay.
And I will say, I understand where Mr. Handler was coming from, but I would invite him to either point out in the charter or Mass General Law where there is a requirement to do what he's asking.
I would say there is none, and I completely understand the charter and how it reads as to the select board shall designate. It does not speak to how it will designate. We are in no emergency right now. We are in capable hands. I too say that Mr. Schiavi is a very, very strong candidate. And you may be right, we may not find anybody better on the outside. How do we ensure the town of Harwich that he is the perfect candidate without interviewing others? I also did a little digging. I hope you don't mind that I'm going to do this, Mr. Schiavi, but you were quoted in a paper saying, what we want to do is pick the very best person we can, Schiavi said. I always believe in running an open and fair process. I want the best leader and the best person for the job. After reaching out to a number of retired police chiefs, all of whom were extremely qualified and respected within the state law enforcement community, you landed on a certain individual. As I said, and I'll leave it at this, I will do whatever the will of the board is, and I will work 100% in concert with the board and whomever sits in that chair of acting town administrator. I just got used to a process that this board followed for the last 2 years. Select Board Member Howell, you would ask for all applications and all resumes for other hires of the town from the town administrator. And I respected that from you. I really believe that that was something remarkable that you were asking for, that you wanted to vet everyone who came through the door to make sure that we were picking the right person. I see this board straying from that path. And again, I'll say it one more time, no disrespect to the applicant. No disrespect to Mr. Schiavi. He clearly is capable of this position. So I'll leave it at that. Clearly, the will of the board is to move forward with a motion. As I stated way back, before I even knew Mr. Schiavi's name was involved in this, I said I couldn't support that process. So that's where I stand. And listen, we're here to disagree sometimes.
100%.
We are not here to always agree,
Thankfully.
thankfully. If we all agreed, we'd be in the wrong place, in the wrong room at the wrong time. So that's my opinion, and I'm going to give it when I'm called to give it. So, thank you.
Okay, that being said,
So, I'll make one comment before I make a motion, and Mr. Handler, I appreciate where you're coming from, and this certainly wouldn't be the process I would use for the permanent, permanent position being filled. However, clearly, we have an outstanding candidate with exceptional experience that happens to be a town resident, so I'm more than comfortable that the individual can do an extraordinary job for us in the town of Harwich. With that said, I'd make a motion to offer Tony Schiavi the interim town administrative position, and if agreed upon, enter into contract negotiations.
I'll second that motion.
it's been moved and seconded. I do want to make one comment that I didn't have the opportunity to before, because it's kind of a narrative that I've been on for the last 15 out of the last 25 years that I've served. To the extent that there is someone on the board, and you can infer that tonight's discussion, but it will be a different person at different times. I just would like to have an assurance that everyone has equal access to the town administrator, regardless of whether they're on the majority side or the minority side, so that everyone continues to have access. That has not always been the case. I just wanted to make sure that everyone has the
I appreciate that.
same amount of
I would
access.
never imagine a man of this stature shutting out a board member.
No.
Just wanted it on the record because it's a really important issue.
Right.
So, any further discussion?
No.
It's essentially to enter into final negotiations, or it's an appointment subject to negotiations.
Sure.
All right, so,
Whatever he said.
well, you said it first. Yeah. Okay, so if there's no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
I
No. No.
was going to get to all against. So it's 4-1. Thank you for coming in, appreciate it. All righty. Got a bunch of things here. I hate to flip this, but is there any way, because Elizabeth Harder's been sitting here for the whole meeting, with everyone's indulgence, if we can flip that up to now as a discussion? Because there's been a disagreement on the,
We do have the member from Perks here, just in case you didn't.
no, I know that,
Okay.
but this shouldn't take
Sure.
all that long, and we've actually had her on one meeting already. It's on here about reappointing Elizabeth Harder. There was a disagreement on the interview committee, so I'm just looking for clarity.
I don't believe there was a disagreement in the interview committee. I think
You took no
Anita-
action.
Anita and I took an action to bring it to the board
Bring it back to the board.
for a larger discussion.
Right.
We didn't recommend to the board to appoint, and we did not recommend to the board to not appoint. There was, in my opinion, Anita and I sat and we spoke with Elizabeth a few weeks ago. I'll begin by stating that that was not an easy conversation. Elizabeth puts in a lot of time and effort into this town as a volunteer, and I don't want that to be overlooked. Both Anita and I felt, and correct me if I'm wrong, Anita, but we felt that after the meeting, it would be a good idea to bring it to the rest of the board to hear what happened in that meeting and maybe get our input. So,
The reason I think we did, Jeff, was because it had been taken off the agenda for the appointment, and we all had initialed it, so we thought it'd be better to bring it back to the full board.
sure. So I'll let you take it away. I mean, why don't you give us a
synopsis
of what you thought about that meeting and with Elizabeth? And Elizabeth is here. Does she want to come up
Right.
and answer some questions if there are questions?
Do we have any yet, or
I
we're
don't
still
know.
at the
I don't
discussion
know,
point?
but I'll let Anita start, and I'll chime in later.
Thank you.
No, Elizabeth, I really don't have any questions of you. I think you stated pretty much where you had come from and your apologies, and we had talked about being an elected official. You are held at a different standard, a higher standard, I think, and I think you understand that, being that you are holding to, right now, 2 elected positions in this town, so that's, we did have quite an extensive conversation with her.
Jeff?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. There was a statement made. I think that these are the 2 statements that came forward that prompted, Anita, I might be wrong, but this is the way I remember it. There were 2 statements that Mrs. Harder made that prompted us to not reappoint and to bring it back to the board. The first statement was, and you know what, Elizabeth, if you don't mind, come on up, because I'd love to hear you answer to these, or no? I would like you to, if you don't mind. You made a statement that you're avoiding going to certain meetings because you're not sure you can control your emotions. I think you said that you had a request from the ZBA to go to the ZBA meeting, and you chose to not. And your reasoning was because you felt that you might not be able to hold your tongue. Did I remember that right, Anita, or no?
I would have to say no. I don't recall saying that. I do recall saying that I did not go to the following ZBA meeting that I was asked to attend because of the people that were upset with me, and that I felt it was better to just remove myself from the situation. But that was not because of me. That was just, I felt it was the prudent thing to do. I didn't think I would have a problem.
I thought you said that you were going to think long and hard about the attending certain meetings that you felt might be uncomfortable or difficult for you to attend.
Not uncomfortable or difficult
If I could
for me.
interject, this is becoming uncomfortable, to have an invective going on
Sure.
here.
Okay, then-
Is there a conclusion that you're pointing towards, as opposed to just having the same discussion?
No, I'll yield.
It's on here because you didn't make any kind of
There's
recommendation.
another person on the interview committee. If she would like to make a motion to reappoint, or someone else would, then sure.
Yes, I would like to make the motion to reappoint Elizabeth Harder to, I don't have the paperwork in front of me, sorry. To the Housing Committee. Thank you.
Second.
For a term,
I don't have the paperwork in front of me. For a term,
for the, I don't know, because I haven't,
is there a term
I
on
didn't
it?
do the interviews.
I don't have a term.
To the open position that
To
she
the
was.
open
Well, it's
position.
3 years plus,
3
so it's 2028.
Till 2028.
Art knows everything.
Yeah,
So
well-
I was gonna ask him.
You were being reappointed so that it's a full 3-year vacancy, which would be
Be
June,
to-
July 1st, until June 30th, 2028.
Sorry, I was looking real quick for it, because we pulled it out of order. I was looking real quick
No,
for
that's
the
fine.
agenda. Okay, so it was moved. and
Is that
seconded.
your motion then?
Yes.
Did someone second it?
I've seconded.
Okay. Richard, get something.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Richard Waystack, Harwich. And I think it's important that whether someone's an elected official or an appointed official, to respect the residents of this community. I was a victim at a public hearing on housing by the applicant, who accused me publicly of being a greedy landlord, because I spoke about my own affordable housing program that I do. I was never apologized to publicly. That is not how members of our committees, chairs, or elected officials should be acting. We have an issue in this community of agreeing to disagree civilly. And I looked forward to a public apology, but I never received one. I think it's important, as you, as the appointing authority in this community, think very carefully of who you bring to these committees. And when people speak out, whether they're an appointed position, elected position, people look at that. They should be respected, but they should respect each and every member of our community, whether they agree or they disagree with them on any issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Richard.
Art?
Mr. Chairman, Select Board, Art Bowden, Housing Committee. I'm also on the Housing Authority, and I'm a housing advocate. And I also went through a little hiatus myself for something I said. But I was able to work my way back. It was back a few years ago. I was told to bow down, and I did. But after a year was up, I figured that was long enough in purgatory, so I applied for my position again, and I got it. Anyways, that's a side issue. That's out here. That's not what I want to say. I guess all I want to say is, we got a few contentious issues in town, and obviously housing is one of them. We're not moving very fast, or for some people, and some people were moving too fast. So anyway, so the two are kind of, and I try to get up and make a statement every time I can get a chance to. But I want to just leave this. I've been going to a number of meetings on housing, and I'll tell you, there's not a lot of advocates out there at all. There's a lot of namesayers, a lot of people against housing. But I've been to a couple meetings in the last couple of weeks, and I look around the room, and I'm sitting there by myself. I said, well, where's all the people that are supposed to be advocating housing? So with that said, also, the Housing Committee has been down a member for, I can't remember the last time we had a full committee. So that goes to another question. Where are all the advocacy people or people that just want to be on a committee? Basically, every committee in town's got vacancies. So I know, everyone's got things to do and so on and so forth. But, every committee in town has vacancies, and the Housing Committee does. So I know this doesn't solve the problem, but I think it just aggravates the problem. Because a lot of times I go home, I talk to the windshields. I definitely don't talk to my wife about what my feelings sometimes are, because she'd probably, Art, sit down and, don't bother me. But anyways, but Elizabeth here is very passionate about what she does. And she does a lot of things with housing, and she's very passionate about it. And I can understand that. And sometimes when you get passionate about a subject, it's hard not to embrace the person around you that's kind of against you, It's not always easy to always take the high road. That's what I'm trying to say here. So, on one side, we're trying to recruit volunteers, and on the other side, we're saying, wait, the minute you just step over the line, bam, we're gonna, send you to the woodshed. So anyways, that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Art. Okay, we have a motion. I do want to say one thing. Elizabeth and I have known each other for a lot of years. I have had comments, made comments to her in the past about trying to tone down her commitment. Not commitment, but tone down her feelings in public. She did apologize to me over the incident that occurred recently. She did apologize publicly, Richard. She was here at that podium that said that she was sorry she did what she did. Perhaps she should have done it directly to you, giving an opportunity for that to happen right now. But I don't think anybody's saying that they're looking forward to that being a continuation. I think that there was a problem with this. Probably Art's right. There's a lack of people, that we can appoint to things, but that doesn't mean that people should be subjected to anything either. Everybody should be treated with respect and decorum. And you have my apologies that that didn't happen to you, Richard. I'm just banking on the fact that you'll just repeat what you said, that you're sorry that it happened.
Absolutely. And to Richard, if he wants a personal apology for what he took as insulting at a housing meeting a long time ago, I will apologize for what I said. I did not mean it to represent him, but if that's the way he took it, obviously, when I do get passionate, my words come out before my head does it. Because honestly, I do think one of the problems we have with housing is developers and everybody wanting to make money. I did not mean that Mr. Waystek in any way was one of those people, and I'm very sorry if anyone in the public thought that's what I meant. Many apologies.
Regardless of how this shakes out, what I really would like to walk out of the room with is that all of the folks here, whether they work for the town, they volunteer for the town, or they go to meetings in the town, have an expectation that whatever meeting that they're going to, that people will talk to them civilly. And that's my continuing expectation, especially if you wind up getting reappointed. That's all I'm trying to say.
No,
Is that for everyone who gets appointed, that's an expectation that's absolutely on the table. You treat everybody as you would want yourself to be treated in those meetings.
Absolutely, and that would be lovely for everyone, and I promise to do that.
Sure.
And I, never, the one thing I will say honestly, I'm not perfect. And I do my best, but, and I will continue to do my best. Thank you.
All right, well, there's a motion on the floor to reappoint you for 3 years, and Pete has something to say.
If I could, too, to Mr. Handler, Jeff, I believe you mentioned something about 2 items, and I think you only discussed one.
At
There's
the
some- is there something-
request of the chair, I'm not going to bring the second one up.
I'd really rather not have personal stuff
Okay.
discussed in this
I'm just
particular venue.
not familiar with what it was. I wasn't trying to poke the bear or anything.
I don't know either.
And what I'll say is elected, appointed, whatever the position is, respect is a must, and decorum is a must. And that begins at this board. It resonates to every other board and committee within this community. And getting aggravated or on the opposite side of a particular vote or an issue isn't an excuse or a reason to disrespect anybody. I bite my tongue more often than not as I sit on this board. I did it again tonight, and I'll continue to do it because I'll respect the position of this board. But it cannot and will not be tolerated. people ask why we don't have volunteers. Sometimes we need to look right in the mirror. Thank you.
And the only other thing that I will say, like I said to you at that meeting, and it holds to everyone, when you're appointed to a board, or whether you work for the town, or whether you, an elected official, you're representing the town, you're representing the people, so sometimes you have to listen and just hear what they have to say without really voicing an opinion.
Thank you. You're right.
Anything else? No further comments. Call for a vote then. All in favor of the appointment?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
So it's 3-2. Okay, going back up. The item C under new business is a discussion and vote to appoint a hearing officer to conduct a public hearing for alleged entertainment liquor license violation that occurred on June 20th, 2025. We're not going to go over the particulars of that. I would recommend that we move to have the interacting town administrator designated as the hearing officer to be referred to her.
Is there a second? Do I need to?
You need to move.
Oh, okay.
You could say so moved, and that would help.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, so we're voting to refer the incident. Is there any further discussion about that? Because we're not going to litigate it tonight. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I move we approve a change of manager application for the Belmont Condominium Beach, doing business as The Beach, 1 Belmont Road. That's item D.
I know what it is. I'm waiting for somebody to say second.
Oh.
Second.
Second.
Thank you.
I'll take this one.
Thank you so much.
Got it.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous.
Thank you.
Was it worth the wait?
All right.
It was worth the wait, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve a pledge of collateral license application for Pelham on Earl Operating LLC, doing business as Pelham on Earl, 30 Earl Road.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Does the acting town administrator want to make a comment about the application?
I'm sorry, I was going on to the next one. I wasn't expecting any
Oh, just
documentation. So,
ask for advice.
this has been reviewed, and we have no objections to changing this.
Okay, any further discussion then? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous.
Mr. Chair, I move we vote to approve a special permit application for a one-day liquor license, wines and malt, for the Harwich Cranberry Festival, Inc., event to be held on September 13th, 2025, from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m., and September 14th, 2025, from 12 p.m. to 3 p.m. at 100 Oak Street.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve this special permit application for the Cranberry Festival. Any further discussion?
I'll just state that I've known Ed to do a lot of things I never knew he was a beverage manager.
I'd like that job. Okay, hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous. Okay, discussion, the bigger issue is where do we go from here right now? We were in discussions last year with the Monomoy Regional School District, and we ended up where we ended up, and the question is, what do we want to do to pick it up again? So,
Mr. Chair,
Pete?
I'd like to take a swing with the bat if I could. Yes?
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Go ahead.
I want to look at this a little bit differently than we have for the past year or so, and although I don't have the particulars, what I'd like to get to is a motion that we formally request that the Monomoy Regional School Committee take this matter up and evaluate the entire agreement but specifically the funding formula within the agreement. And I believe we have some resources available that we could share with that committee on different funding formulas and different legislation that is out there related to regional agreements. The school board doesn't need the approval of the select boards to open the agreement. School board can take a vote, and I forget what the exact count has to be as far as to open that agreement. But they have the ability to do it as a group. And the agreement is set to be reviewed every 5 years, which means FY '27 is the year in which it should be evaluated. If my math is correct, FY '27 is next fiscal year. So I would again, and I'm happy to put in some form of a motion, but I'd like to gauge the board's interest in formally requesting that the school board take this matter under advisement and review the agreement.
Okay.
Is that a motion, Pete?
It's not right now. I didn't know if folks had, wanted to bounce it off a wall first, or I'm happy to put it into a motion.
If I may, Mr. Chair?
Sure.
Thank you, Pete. And I would support that, but I would like in the motion to be like a date certain, a timeline for
Sure.
this to happen, so that it's not just out there.
Yep.
And I don't know how this board tasks the school board to act.
It's
It
not a
would be
task, it's a request.
A request.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
So I would support that as long as we request that in a very near amount of time.
Sure.
We're burning daylight here.
Yep.
How about if, you take a shot at a letter coming from the board, and it's on the next agenda so that you can
100%.
look at that?
I like that idea even more.
Perfect. I'm fine with that. I'd like to Mr. Hamlin's point, I want to get it moving, but if it's next meeting, that's fine with me as well.
I move that Pete writes a letter.
My writing is as good as my hearing and my eyes.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Exactly.
Yeah, I could get behind that. So you want to stab a motion at that, Pete?
That you're going to craft a letter? Sure.
No, that a letter will be crafted.
Sure. So, I'll.
How about letting administration and I noodle around and then give you something for...
Oh, that's fine. I'm not going to say who does the letter, but
Right.
a motion to craft a letter to send to the Monomoy Regional School Committee, formally requesting that they open and review the regional school agreement in its entirety, and more specifically, to the funding formula within said document.
It's a pretty long motion.
It is, and I could keep going if you'd like.
No, that's fine. I will say, if you could just accept this, because I believe it would have more gravitas if the letter is for the signature of the whole board.
Agreed.
My second.
Okay. All right, so it's moved and seconded for a letter be brought forward for our consideration to go to the Monomoy School District for the signature of the board requesting the stuff that you outlined.
And I'll specifically leave the date out of the motion, but I'll let the crafters come up with that date, and we can vote on that next meeting if we disagree with what's within the document.
Okay, fine. Is that good?
And it will be on the agenda?
Yeah, no, it'll be on the agenda.
Absolutely. That's good by me. Thank you.
Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous. Okay, the letter.
I can take this one, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're sort of in between a rock and a hard place at the moment with the Route 28 dry sewer pipe situation. We were approved for SRF funding. We are on the IUP for intended use plan for this work, and we're at the mercy of Department of Transportation. We have to be under contract for the work in order to get this funding. We've been working with Mark Drainville, who is online if you have further questions once I'm finished explaining. We received an extension for getting ourselves under contract to November 30th. However, we will lose our principal forgiveness because we've gone beyond the initial time period. That principal forgiveness is around 3.3%. If we choose to continue on like we are, we will possibly have a contract with someone by December 1st, November 30th. If we do, then we can still go forward with our SRF funding. We would just lose the principal forgiveness. There's a very strong possibility that we will not have someone under contract by the end of November because we are waiting for DOT, Mass DOT, to put this out to bid and get everybody in line. If that is the case, we would lose our IUP standing for what we are on now. And we would have to self-fund the project next year if it goes forward next year. The option is to get on for next year's IUP list. So we would have to reapply to the SRF to get on the list. We have to make that decision very quickly because the deadline to apply is July 25th. Getting SRF funding in the future is also not guaranteed. They've cut their funding by about 90%. So we are in good standing. This project had a lot of points. They do it by a point system. So there's a possibility that we will get on the IUP list for next year, but there's also the possibility that we won't. If we apply for next year's SRF funding, it will cost the town some money to reapply. The application package is about the same, but the platform to submit it is different, so GHD would have to resubmit it, and there would be a charge for that. We had a conversation with Mass DEP, and they do recommend that we try to get on the next year's funding list. They said the principal forgiveness is unfortunate. However, if we were to wait and do this on our own, the construction costs would go up more than the 3.3% that we would be losing out on. The other thing is, say we apply for next year's SRF funding, we won't know if we get that until January at the earliest. That's when they put out their preliminary list, and then early spring we'd know if we were on the list for funding. So say DOT gets contracts in December and this work goes forward and we have signed up and we're gonna go forward with it, any contract costs between then and when we go under contract with the SRF, we would have to absorb those costs on our own. They wouldn't be reimbursable through the SRF. So there's that problem. If we choose to ditch the project or just not go forward with SRF funding and do this project on our own, we would be looking at a significant increase in costs. So we did the dry pipe at the same time as the DOT work because they absorb the paving costs, the detail work, the construction, the excavating, and we really just supply the engineering and the pipe itself. So we would be looking at, instead of a $2 million project, we'd be looking at an $8 to $10 million project if we didn't do this in conjunction with Mass DOT.
Yeah, I'd like to add a couple of things
Sure.
while we're here. The first and less obvious one for the public is that once DOT opens up a road and repaves it, there is a paving moratorium where you're not allowed to go and tear it up subsequent to that. I think, was it 5 years?
5 years.
So that winds up being an impediment, and it was supposed to be buried so that it gave us options in every direction possible. It is not pitched for gravity feed. It was presupposed to be want a pressurized pipe, so it could go either direction depending on where we felt like we wanted to deliver effluent. I guess the final thing is a question more than an answer, because the principal forgiveness is the province of the Clean Waters Board in the county. I mean, I'm a member, but I'm only a member. So the question is, have we actually consulted with either Aaron Perry or Christie Sanatori, because they've got like real tight relationships with DOR relative to this, and they're the ones who would have to, based on an IUP, intended use plan, have to vote to disperse the money at the county level. So is anybody?
DEP has been in contact with them, and we know we will be losing our principal forgiveness.
Okay.
Yeah. And Mark may have some additional information for you.
Okay. Mark?
Hi, Mark Greenwell with GHD. Megan, I actually thought that in our phone call, they said that the Cape and Islands Trust money would still be available through November. But it's the disadvantaged communities principal forgiveness that would not be available. So that's what I recall them saying.
Yeah, the problem, Mark, is that, this is Don again, but the problem is that unless we all go and hijack a DOT truck, it's all contingent on an organization that really isn't technically part of the executive branch. There's no real leverage there.
Right. You know, the big problem that we're facing is that, DOT is on their own schedule, and SRF is becoming much more strict with their deadlines. They used to provide, we did get an extension, but they used to provide more generous extensions, and they're becoming much more strict with them, and that's what we're up against right now. So.
Yeah, I just want to confirm this, because we've had discussions with this in administration. Would we be correct in saying that the governor is pondering a very, very large multi-million or multi-hundred million dollar bond environmental issue? At least that's what I was hearing that the plan was. Because Megan's correct, about 90% of the fund is depleted.
Yeah, I did hear the same. I did hear that something was in the works. I don't know that it's, but I did hear something similar.
Okay, so that presents a problem too, because if the bond issue doesn't pass, then there isn't any cash on hand to be able to dole out in any event. Pete?
Mr. Chair, if I could, I just want to clarify. So we're talking 3.3 of the $2.6 million project?
That's lost, correct.
Correct, so about
There's no question.
$86,000. Right, $86,000?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes,
So,
correct.
with that said, that's the additional cost of the town. Not that I want to spend any extra money, but my point is,
Well known for
we're
that.
talking 85 or 86 grand. So if we were to apply for the 26 SRF, does that automatically kick us out of the existing 25 SRF? So in other words...
It does not.
Okay.
Yeah, it does not. They told us that, you would not be. And so what happens is they actually don't make the decisions until early next year, and you would drop off your current list on November 30th. So unfortunately, there's no overlap. There's actually a gap in between the two.
Okay. So, but regardless, the town's on the hook for about 2.5 if we got the 3.3 reduction, or 2.6 if we don't. Roughly.
I'm sorry, could you say that one more
So
time?
if the project is 2.6.
Net to us.
Net to the town.
Yep.
If we
Yeah.
got the principal reduction, we'd be on the hook for a little over 2.5 million. If we don't get it, we're on the hook for the whole 2.6 million.
Yeah, so you definitely have lost, you definitely have lost the 3.3%.
Right.
The issue is once you hit beyond November 30th, then you'd be on the hook for the entire amount. Yeah.
Right, so there's no harm in moving forward with the 26 SRF, because best case scenario, we qualify for the $85,000 savings, worst case scenario, we pay it.
Yeah, the worst case scenario is that you would have to commit to, signing a contract for this work and then not getting the SRF funding next year. That's the worst case
So the
scenario.
additional 85
So
grand
just
would
want
be
to
on
make
us.
sure.
I think that any request, though, would be for
5 million
fiscal
would be on us.
'27.
Right, the 2 point, well, it'd be 2.6 would be on us.
2.6,
So
yeah.
the additional
It would be
85 would come to
2.6.
us,
Yep.
as opposed to being paid through this fund. So we'd be on the hook
Correct.
for the entire 2.6.
Correct.
As opposed to holding this thing off down the road, 5-year moratorium, and then spending $10 million. That'd be foolish. So going forward, even if it costs us the full 2.6, is the best solution for the town.
That's what you wanted to be able to
That's my
get a sense of the
recommendation,
board
and
for.
that's what I wanted
All
to
right.
be able to direct GHD to either go forward or not.
Is that what everybody feel? I feel that way myself. I just wanted to make sure that everybody else was comfortable with that, because that was the reason for doing this initially, is DOT had guaranteed us they were coordinating this, so if you had that happen, you had the state SRF money, and you had the county happening, everything was great. And then DOT didn't follow its own timeline.
If you have any pull
Yep.
at DOT, I recommend you pull those strings now.
We have someone on Queen Anne Road who might.
He's tried, yeah.
Yeah, Mark.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chair. Do we ever utilize our state rep or state senator? I mean, here we are losing money from 2 state agencies. I've noticed the state senator is very busy on happy hour legislation. This is something where we could benefit, and, I just never hear us mention our legislative people. We need to reach out and we need to work them. So I would, before we give up on this, I think we should contact the state senator and the legislator, and Hadley Luddy is a very hard worker. So I just think we've got to utilize these people a lot more. Thank you.
I agree with you, Mark. And I tried the same methodology with Sarah going back years ago. The problem is that DOT's self-funded. It comes from the RMV money and whatever toll monies they were getting out of tunnels and stuff. So they have a board of governors. They're not really in the executive branch, so the legislature has kind of a limited bandwidth to be able to lean on them, because they're not appropriating to them. So that makes it really difficult, because you can't make that kind of leverage move. Certainly worth a shot, but I'm just warning you that there's a disconnect between the legislature and the power of the purse and the actual operations of DOT.
Mr. Chair,
Sure.
I move to resubmit the Route 28 sewer project for the 2026 State Revolving Fund project.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to resubmit. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous.
Thank you, Mark.
Thanks, Mark.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair, I move that we discuss and have a possible vote to authorize the chair to sign a statement of need for local preference letter for the local action units for 203 Bank Street.
And as luck would happen, someone's coming here to tell us why.
Should I go now?
Yes,
Okay.
you're on.
All right, sounds good. Good evening. I'm Brianna Powell. For those of you who don't know me, I'm the housing advocate for the town. In your packet this evening, you'll find a letter in support of local preference for 70% of the units at 203 Bank Street. This would apply to 2 of the 3 affordable housing units being built. At your June 30th meeting, the board voted to sign the local action unit application for the project. And as part of the application, a letter of support for local preference is required when it's being requested. The letter I've prepared outlines the need for affordable housing that prioritizes individuals and families who currently live in Harwich, work here, or have children attending Harwich schools. It includes supporting data that speaks to the need in our community. Before presenting the letter to the board, I shared a draft with Ali Sabatino at the Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities. Ali is the point contact for reviewing all LAU applications and has provided preliminary feedback. I'm happy to answer any questions you have, and thanks for your time.
Any questions?
Sure.
Sure, Pete.
Could you, once again, I'm sorry, tell me the difference between what we did on the 30th and what we're doing tonight?
Sure. So the 30th was the application for the local action units. This is part of the application. It's a letter supporting local preference for up to 70% of the units.
For our residents.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So any motion, since the letter's set up this way, should be to approve, or to authorize the chair to sign the letter that exists in our packet.
So, Mark made a motion, right, already? I seconded it.
For the signature of the chair.
For the signature.
That's what I thought I heard.
Yeah, for what's in the packet.
Yep.
Yes.
All right, any further discussion then? Richard?
Thank you again, Richard Wastek. This is monumental. You know, we've had so many discussions about housing. We see 203 Bank, we see what's happened in the West Harwich Schoolhouse. For those people, when we talk about a development like this, well, it's not for local people. That's what this letter does. It talks about a local preference. And for those who continually say that we don't have a housing crisis, I wish they could sit with me at my office and field the calls of people looking for rentals and affordable rentals. So this, I think, is huge that you sign this. It's a great message to the community that when projects like this are funded by the Affordable Housing Trust, by the CPC in this town, local people are getting priority for that housing. Thank you.
And just as importantly, it integrates very well into the community without being a large-scale project. It's something, there's two different things in here, both of which are helping the community out and getting on our SHI list for the subsidized housing inventory. So with that in mind, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous. Same deal for the second one?
Yes, the difference.
Different
would be
location.
Different location, and there would be 10 units added to the subsidized housing inventory, because 25% of the units are affordable.
Same motion?
Same motion.
Well,
Second.
And just to clarify, so this is the actual application and the statement,
Correct.
where the last one was just the statement because we did the app.
So you want to
Last
authorize
meeting.
both?
So I just, to point that out, that's all.
Okay. And the motion was to authorize both?
Just on.
Authorize vote.
And don't go anywhere, I got a quick question for you afterwards. Any further discussion? Yeah, hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous.
He's just on.
Just out of curiosity, because I'm pretty sure that's on your radar screen too, and we can't do anything, it's not on the agenda, but I just want to put it out there, that there are certain things on the SHI list that are actually still performing as affordable, large things, but there's also a small number of units on Route 28, I'm not sure whether that's Harwichport or West Harwich at that juncture, that appears to be slipping off the list. Has there been any discussions directly with the real estate owner? I just want to get it out there in public.
Yeah, at this time, there doesn't seem to be any interest in retaining those units.
Okay, so those are going to be lost to the SHI list,
They will be, correct. Unfortunately, yeah.
making it all the more important to do this.
Yep.
Richard?
Pick up on that, as we have been before you, and the assessors with the housing advocate and the community planner are looking very, very closely at the SHI list. You heard about 10 units in West Harwich. One of the things we're looking at, only 25% of those will be affordable. Not all will be qualified for a subsidy by the town. And we've actually dropped a couple that have been subsidized that should not have been subsidized. So we'll be back to you in the next couple of months with some policy as it relates to the SHI list, what is being subsidized by the town in terms of a tax subsidy, and changes that need to be made to that list. So the advocate's been working very diligently with the assessing staff and the community planner to get that done.
I got that, but the reason I brought it up is because this comes to zero, not a portion.
And then on the flip side, we were able to add one property to the subsidized housing inventory that wasn't on it before through the work with the assessing department.
Great.
Yeah.
All right, thanks.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
your time. Right. So, contracts.
Okay, Mr. Chair, in front of you.
Killed some time until you came back, Jeff.
At the request of Julie Wittes, our Council on Aging Director, you have before you a memorandum of understanding with the SHINE program. And SHINE stands for Serving the Health Insurance Needs of Everyone. This is a successful program that the Council on Aging has had for many years. This is a renewal for a one-year period. And the Council on Aging Director recommends the board authorize the chair to sign the attached memorandum of understanding.
So move.
Second?
Moved and seconded to support the memorandum of agreement. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous. Town Administrator's report.
Okay, quickly, we have a few contracts just to make you guys aware of. We have one with Outer Cape Health in the amount of $37,174, and this is in support of our opioid settlement funds. Outer Cape Health Services provides a recovery coach program, and this funding goes to support a full-time person, and our portion is a .3 full-time equivalent. It's becoming a very successful program, and that was executed just last week. The next one is a contract with EDR, which is an engineering firm, for $44,500 for a conceptual design of the Main Street Transportation Corridor. And I had talked about this last week or the week before. This will use some funds from a prior annual town meeting for ADA upgrades to ramps and sidewalks and curbing. And I will make sure that EDR is aware of the request for trees along the roadway. And we will have at least one conceptual design, and this engineering firm will bring that to the board as well as the public for input before anything is voted on or implemented.
Hey, can I interrupt, Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
This is-
Pretty hard, not me.
Well, I already interrupted both of you now, but this is for Harwich Center.
This is for Harwich Center, yes.
So when they do this, this is just for the sidewalks?
It is, this is just a conceptual design plan for that, so this won't include any construction.
But nothing to do with the traffic flow?
Nothing to do with the traffic flow unless we'd like to include that. So the funding we have available is through an article for accessibility. So if we wanted to expand the scope, we would need to find funding in some other way. We do have some funding in the engineering budget for other professional services. This scope of work does include some parking
Okay.
options, but no, we're not looking at the flow of traffic.
And so just to the board, I'd love for someone to look at the damn basketball court painted across the street at the gas station that sits out there in red, that takes away half of the friggin' road and creates backup on Bank Street, you know, down to the,
Thanks
to
to
the
COVID.
beach. Yeah. So,
I'm assuming you got an email, as did I. Is that from a
well,
resident?
well, ironically, I sat in it, and then I got the email, and I'm like, I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, yeah. As do I.
Yeah.
As do I.
And that issue has been referred to the Traffic Safety Committee. So
Yeah.
it will be looked at. I remember when that design was done, it was a safety issue to have two lanes. It's line of sight with both vehicles at the top of Bank Street, but,
He doesn't care about it.
yeah. you
No,
have to
I
wait a
love
little
safety,
extra.
but I'd like to know what the data showed as far as the number of traffic accidents.
Can I chip in with a question? Because I do believe this does cover this, but there was the issue of the possibility of creating 2 parking spaces in front of the Pilgrim Lodge because it's a rather deep sidewalk where we could probably narrow down the sidewalk to be able to create some inset parking like Hyannis. That's part of
That is part of this scope of service.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that the people in that area understood that we haven't forgotten them.
Have not forgotten them. The next one is a contract extension for trash removal services with Barrows Waste Management. We've had Barrows under contract for the last year, and we can extend this by 1 year, and then next year the same thing for a total of 3 years. We have not had any complaints, and prices are staying the same. And two more things. I have recommended our Conservation Administrator, Amy Usowski, and our Natural Resources Director, Stephanie Sykes, as representatives to the Barnstable County Coastal Resources Committee. In your packet was information about that committee. They meet quarterly and provide advice and resources for towns for coastal resiliency and policy change. They had a meeting, they will have their first meeting this week. So Amy is the primary and Stephanie is the secondary, the backup. So they will have to be appointed by Barnstable County. So this is just a recommendation of two people that I felt would be the best fit for that role. And then lastly, in your packet was the letter from CBIZ, which is our auditor, our financial auditor. This was signed as acknowledging the work that they have found, the work that they have done, and saying that we have made all of the available, the information available, and that all of the information they've been working with is true and accurate. This is not our audit, but it is a document that says that we've given them all of the information, they have reviewed it, and they have not found any fraudulent activity. And that's it for Town Administrator's report.
Okay, then. Select Board member reports. Pete?
Well, no fraudulent activity is good. No, I don't have anything. I want to go home and take that tuna sandwich out of my drawer.
Well, that stinks. I need it.
No, I don't really think I have anything.
Mark?
Sure. I attended a meeting of the Cemetery Commission, and they do a lot of good work, which it's, until you attend those meetings, you don't realize it. I do want to give a shout out to the East Harwich Union Cemetery fence replacement. Michael Theoharidis, and I'm sorry, Mike, if I mispronounce your name. His Eagle Scout project was to do this. Yeah, Michael picked up 115 rail, 71 split rail posts, and they did it all on one day on Saturday, June 7th. So a special thanks to Michael. Troop 76, alongside Unit Leader John Ungerland, Scoutmaster, and Unit Committee Chair John Cummings. Second thing, the Finance Committee is working on a proposal to bring before the board for attracting and retaining public safety employees. They're considering the establishment of a public safety employees home loan program. The intent is to establish a pool of funds, say $400,000, with the intent of providing up to $1,000 per applicant for the purpose of assisting with their down payment or the closing costs associated with their first time purchase of a residential property within the geographic limits of the position requirements. They're working on that, and they will bring it before this board at some point in the future.
Thank you. Jeff?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On that note, Mark, with Finance Committee, we did make a strong promise to them that we review revolving funds. And I would just ask, yeah, well, I'd bring it up. So I asked,
Before I die.
I'd ask the liaison to reach out, and if that's okay with the rest of the board, begin the process.
To that point, I'm really hoping to the third week of August, or possibly the fourth week of August, to have a joint meeting with FinCom, us, and Capital Outlay to map out together how we want to go forward on this cycle. And any issues like that would be appropriate to talk about. It's too late in March.
No, of course, I just didn't want it to get lost. And then lastly, as promised, I went out and waited for the worst possible day of rain to drive Seth Whitefield Road and Raptor Road. There was a question about the width that was cut. It is absolutely perfect. The DPU and whoever worked out there with the DPU did a phenomenal job. They did not encroach. They did not go as wide as we thought they had. And it's a nice, smooth ride and easily passable. So I just wanted to let the DPW know publicly they did a hell of a job.
And it's great to end on unanimity and agreement, because I did the same thing.
Yeah,
And the
great,
road looks great.
Yeah, it's great.
He did everything we asked, and I really appreciated that.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Before we adjourn, I just want to remind everybody again about the Cape Verdean Festival on Saturday, this coming Saturday. It'll be a soft start, about 10:30. Things will get cooking, literally, by noontime, because there's plenty of food there, too. But I recommend everyone go out there. And with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Anybody else can stay.